Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Thank you and welcome to the webinar. I know we're right at noon, so let's just go ahead and give everyone another 2 minutes to jump in. While we do that, I'm gonna launch a poll. We've been doing these financial education webinars for a while, and we want to know, hey, is this your first time here at one of our financial education webinars? Have you been to a few? So just go ahead, please vote for us. And let's give everyone another, looks like minute and 30 seconds to jump in. Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you for, I'm going to give you all another 30 seconds. Looks like a few more votes are coming in through the poll. It is dead almost right in the middle. So many of you, half of you are here for the first time and half of you are attending another one of these. So thank you for returning to our financial education webinars. We really hope that they have been useful to you. And of course, thank you for returning. We have a lot of really great information. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you for voting in that. So yeah, we have a lot of fantastic information. Let's jump right into it. Again, my name is Cooley. I'm the Targeted Outreach Director for the California DFPI. You are attending our Path to Home Ownership webinar. So just a quick disclaimer here: your cameras and microphones have been turned off. Please use the Zoom's Q&A feature to submit any questions to us. We have a dedicated Q&A session at the very end where we'll answer as many questions as we can. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenters. They do not necessarily reflect those views and positions of the DFPI or other departments in this presentation. Any mentions of specific products, services, or brands in this presentation is for informational purposes only and is not an endorsement or recommendation. This presentation is for educational, informational purposes only. This is not legal or financial advice. We are a big proponent of you doing your own research, and by being here, that's what you're doing. So thank you. If you have any questions, you want to give some feedback, please feel free to email us at outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. Okay. Just quickly, who is the DFPI? What do we do? We are the California's state financial regulator. We maintain a fair and healthy, trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this through regulation of financial laws and enforcement of a variety of financial laws. We, again, license, regulate, and oversee a number of California financial services products and professionals. We also provide presentations just like this throughout the state of California to help protect consumers, to help inform them, and to help prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. If you want to learn more, you could go to our website, dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. All right, last plug before we get started, and I apologize, I did get someone here. I'm going to speak a little bit louder. Looks like I'm not speaking loud enough. I'm going to plug this before we jump right in. The DFPI is offering no-cost online financial education. All you got to do is register at dfpi.ca.gov/learn. It's a learning platform. You register with the email. It's going to save your progress as you go through a number of different modules. So you could do things, you could learn things about budgeting, investing, retirement planning, paying for college, paying down debt, building your credit. So completely free, and it's open to anyone and everyone. Please feel free to go to the website, register, and use this for yourself and others. All right. I usually save this slide to the very end, but I'm going to try something different and give you a little bit of motivation. Um, I'm going to be completely honest. I know homes and living in California is expensive, but renting isn't throwing money away. And I hear this so often from many people who come to my workshops or talk to me during events. They feel like they're renting and they're throwing money away. You're not. What you're doing is you're buying time, right? Whether you're living somewhere and giving people money or you're renting, leasing, you're buying time and time to do things like build up a down payment, right? You're buying time to improve your career, maybe make more money, maybe improve your credit, maybe pay down debt. You're not throwing money when you're renting. Okay, the worst scenario is if you buy a house but you're not ready to, right? In other words, you don't make enough money to pay for the house, or you don't have the credit to buy a house. So renting is not throwing money away. You're just buying time. Um, you can, a lot of things to help you stay motivated. Create a timeline, right? I have a friend who runs marathons, and he says there's the most unnerving thing is not seeing the markers, which tells you what your progress is. Create a timeline. It'll help you achieve your dream. It'll help you know how you're moving in your progress. Share your dreams with others, right? It keeps you accountable. And others, by the way, believe it or not, many people want to hear your dreams and they want to help support you. Finally, a couple of different quotes from a squad leader of mine when I was in the Army. Opportunities favor the prepared. You want to be prepared so that when the opportunities finally come to you, you could take advantage of those opportunities, right? So if you've built up your credit, you have a down payment saved, you have a budget in place, right? When the right home comes to you, you could take advantage of that opportunity. And finally, another quote from my squad leader: if you get angry, you better do something about it, right? You could get angry, sure. But if you're gonna get angry, you need to do something about it. Otherwise, what's the point of getting angry, right? Okay, let's talk about path to home ownership, right? Buying a house is a significant investment, and it is a step towards building generational wealth. But it can be a long and difficult process, and that's why you're attending this webinar. You're probably wanting to learn a little bit more. Couple different pieces of advice here. Don't rush into this investment. Every investment, you should do your research, take your time. Don't get caught up in the fear of missing out. Again, take your time, be careful. You want to get help, definitely. Find and use trusted professionals, advisors out there. So like a licensed real estate, licensed real estate professional, or licensed and good mortgage individual. You will definitely want to do your research. We're going to talk a little more about that. And of course, you want to start the process. And what is the process? Step one, right? The first thing you need to do is determine, are you ready to buy a house? And you need to do things like start budgeting. If you don't budget, you're not going to understand how much you can afford, right? How much of a home can you afford? Also, how much maintenance, if you don't know how much it costs to maintain a house. It's very expensive, right? You break a window, or your AC, your HVAC goes out, right? These things are expensive. You need to budget for those type of things. So that's kind of the first step: budgeting, figure out how much of a house can you afford, and then have emergency fund in place. But after that, you want to look at your credit score. What is your credit score? What kind of credit score do you need and able to get a good lending rate, right? You want to save for a down payment. Okay, step one is just all of these things: budget, figure out how much of a home you can afford, improve your credit score if you need to, save for a down payment. Also, I think I forgot to add here, but pay down any debt that you have: credit card debt, student loan debt if you have it, a car loan. If you can pay down that debt, that really helps your income to debt ratio, which is again going to help you afford a house. Step two, get pre-qualified for a mortgage, right? Once you figure out step one, you have a budget in place, you know how much you can afford, you have a down payment saved, right? get pre-qualified. And this is the process where you can figure out more how you can afford a home. So you'll need your financial information. You need to choose a lender. And again, don't be afraid to shop around. Just don't Google the first mortgage lender on online. Shop around. Talk to a bank, especially if you have a relationship with a bank or credit union already. Talk to them. Go in, say, hey, I'm looking for a mortgage. What are your rates? What do I need to do? Right. You definitely want to check your mortgage lender's information on the DFPI's website. If they are providing a mortgage in the state of California, they should be licensed by us, and you want to make sure that they are licensed and they're in good standing. Once you complete the pre-qualification application, you're going to get a letter, and with this letter, it makes you more serious of a buyer, right? If you're going to open houses or if you're trying to get to negotiation, the pre-qualification letter basically tells the buyer or other real estate agents that, hey, I'm very serious and I'm ready to buy. Remember, a pre-qualification is not a guarantee of approval, right? To get a formal approval, you have to get the pre-approval letter. It's a longer, more arduous process, but this is kind of the first step into the door when you start doing your shopping, right? And also when you're looking for a real estate agent, a pre-qualification letter really helps the real estate agent understand that, hey, you're ready, right? You have money in place, you have your finance, you understand your finances, that kind of thing. And it is really so important to use a real estate agent. Jason Parson from the California Department of Real Estate is here. He's got a whole presentation on real estate agents. So I'm not going to go too deep on this, but a good agent can help you navigate the whole home buying process, which again can be very confusing. They can help you find the right home. And also you want to make sure your real estate agent is licensed with the California Department of Real Estate. Jason's going to talk a little more about that, but it's so important. I get a lot of questions from people asking me, should I get a real estate agent? And my answer has always been yes. You need an advocate for you in this process, in this journey, someone with experience. So a real estate agent is I always advise. All right. Looking for your future home, right? Determine what your home needs are. I know people have a lot of home wants, but what are your basic needs? And then from there, you could add on wants, right? So more rooms, larger space, bigger backyard, a pool. Some of the things are wants and some of the things are needs. Think about what you need first, and then you can consider these add-ons as wants. Consider the maintenance cost of owning the home, right? If it's a very old house that may need a lot of maintenance later on, that's going to be a cost that you're going to incur later on. The price might look great, but if there's, again, other costs down, right? The piping is old. It's got old electrical. Maybe it doesn't have a washer and dryer room or something like that. So you're going to have to add something in the future. Consider the maintenance cost. Okay. A pool, by the way, is a huge cost around maintaining a pool. Look into it. Don't forget about any HOA fees and special taxes. So HOA is home ownership. It's a home ownership organizations that your house may be part of. So whenever you and your real estate agent are shopping for homes, always make sure to ask about HOA fees. If there are any HOA restrictions, right, to where you're living, and also if the area has any kind of special taxes. Again, work with your real estate agent to find the home that meets your needs and your budget. So important to make sure that you're shopping within your budget. Just a quick side note here, if your real estate agent is only showing you homes that are at the very top of your budget, you may want to look for a different real estate agent, right? A good real estate agent is going to give you a good spectrum, right? Homes that are under your budget, homes that are right at your budget, and then maybe a few homes that are at the top of your budget to see what your money could get you in different areas. All right. Step 5, make an offer, right? Once you've found the home you want to purchase, you still want to do your research. So things like where the home is located, you want to look at the schools and different amenities around, right? How close it is to the highways. You want to understand the market conditions. In other words, if you buy a house that looks amazing, but perhaps the surrounding homes or area is not that great, that could definitely affect your home value later on. Consider the property's condition, of course. Not all, you don't have to, when you're making an offer, you don't have to include a letter, but I've done it and when I was purchasing a house, and it actually really helps. It helps the seller understand who you are, Maybe you have a family and you're trying to raise them, and this is why you love the house. It really does help from a buyer and seller perspective. And of course, you definitely work through agents who advocate for you to submit your offer. Step 6, um, you want to negotiate, right? Expect negotiation. Unless you're providing them the asking price, you're definitely probably going to be negotiating. You want to be flexible with your offer. You also want to set limits. So important. You want to set a limit to how much you can afford, and don't chase any offers that you can't afford, right? So if your seller is offering you a counter offer that is above your limit, don't chase it. You're going to make this dream into a nightmare. And again, a good real estate agent can provide expert advice and help negotiate on your behalf. Step 7, you definitely want to get inspections, right? A home inspection by a licensed professional is designed to identify any potential defects or issues about the property, right? Consider getting a termite inspection. Sometimes those are required by your lender. Sometimes home inspections are required by your lender too. Actually, very oftentimes it is. A pest inspection may be required if your home inspector or appraiser sees signs of pests. And you definitely want to review your home inspection carefully. Go through every little thing that has been brought up, and you want to consult with professionals if there are going to be any repairs, right? Just because a sink is slowly leaking, it could be a big thing, right? It could be bad piping all throughout the house. This is just one thing that they saw. Or it could just be one small pipe, right? A professional would be able to tell you more. And of course, you could always ask the seller if they'd be willing to make the repairs before you purchase the house. Step 8, gate appraisal. Lenders almost always will require an appraisal prior to issuing you a loan for the house. You may need to renegotiate with the seller or pay for the additional difference if the appraisal for the home is lower than the asking price. So this is a whole other thing. I'm not going to get into it, but I will say if you're contracted with a really good experienced real estate professional, they'll talk more about this and kind of give you advice on what to do. And finally, closing. Again, Jason's actually going to talk a little more about this, but it's the final step of buying a home. The only big thing I want to make sure is when you're closing, right, filling out the documents, there's a thing called closing cost, and you want to budget for it. It's so important. Here's a list of the different fees that are part of the closing process. All these fees are to pay for the transaction, right? So things like loan origination, appraisal, the home insurance, property taxes, transfer title, all that good stuff. These are all fees that are part of your closing. It's almost always separate from your loan. So you want to budget for these closing costs. And again, talk to your real estate agent, talk to your mortgage lender to figure out what these closing costs should be. It will be disclosed, and it will be disclosed in a line item statement. So make sure you go through them. And by the way, many of these fees can be negotiated. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it. Just want you to be aware you got to save some money for closing costs. Finally, I want to review some common home mortgage scams and fraud out there to keep you safe, right? There's the property title scams. That's when someone offers to give you a loan or fast cash in exchange for taking over your mortgage or title. Be very aware of that if you're trying to sell your home. Also be very aware if someone is offering to sell a house without a real estate agent, make sure they actually own the house, okay? So that could be a scam. Loan modification scams are out there, and that's when again someone is promising to modify your loan or lease the house back to you if you're having difficulty paying for your mortgage. There's also some interest rate bait and switch. That's where mortgage rates, maybe a mortgage company is offering you a rate that's noticeably lower than other interest rates. That's definitely a red flag, and you want to look into that a little deeper. And of course, home loan closing scams. That's a scheme where a scammer attempts to steal your banking information, right? I've heard a few of these when I go out there of consumers sharing these stories where an individual is closing on their house and then they get a call and they say, we need this money to close your loan, and they didn't didn't check. They didn't check the credentials. They didn't check the phone call. They just said, okay. And they started wiring money to those individuals. So in this process, you're very vulnerable. You want to make sure in the home buying process, you're very vulnerable. You want to double, triple check when you're sending money that you're sending money to the right people. Okay. With that, I want to hand it over to Jason Parson. He is the district office manager for the California Department of Real Estate. By the way, just a side note before Jason takes over, all this information we've put on a really nice one sheet. It will be available to download. I will have a link to it in a follow-up email that I sent to everyone who registered for a webinar. With that, Jason, please take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Ku. Appreciate that. Yes, my name is Jason Parson. I'm with the California Department of Real Estate, and I am one of the district office managers in our Los Angeles region. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little background on myself, I've been involved with the real estate industry since the early 2000s. I sold residential and land up until I was employed with a department, working as a deputy commissioner, investigating case complaints, and then took over supervising a team. And then a few years ago, I came to Los Angeles, and now I oversee 2 teams. So I've been around the Department of Real Estate for about 15 years, and I'm happy to present on this topic. Next slide, please. So I'll be providing an overview of the Department of Real Estate and placing an emphasis on consumer protection. And next slide. The Department of Real Estate, we first gained authority in 1917. Been around for quite a while. And our last fiscal year budget, we had a budget over $60 million. We have over 325 employees. That's as of April earlier this year. And we operate out of 5 offices. Our principal office is located in Sacramento, and then we have district offices in Oakland, Fresno, San Diego, and Los Angeles. And then along with those district offices, we have examination centers in each of those offices. With the exception of Los Angeles, we have an offsite location in La Palma. Next slide. So our mission is to safeguard and promote the public interest in real estate matters through licensure, regulation, education, and enforcement. Next slide. Our licensee population, this is earlier as in March 2024, we had just over 435,000 licensees, and that's comprised of 71% salespeople and then 29% brokers. To give you a little bit of a background on that, real estate salespeople must be employed by an employing broker before they're able to conduct acts that require a license on behalf of that real estate broker. Next slide. Out of those licensees, we have over 27,000 who have a mortgage loan originator endorsement. And again, that's a similar breakdown in the percentages there, where the individual mortgage loan originators are 77% versus the company of 23%. And just so you know, those who want to create or originate loans, they have to do that through a license by the Department of Real Estate or through DFPI for residential. Next slide. And to bring awareness to our website and the consumer resources available to you, our website located at www.dre.ca.gov. There we have many consumer access links there for our real estate bulletin, consumer advisories. We also have these new podcasts that we put out. They're out in English and Spanish, and we have 10 of those. If you go to our website, you can access those from our newsroom link and our publications link. And I'll go over the 10 titles here in the next slide. So we have 10 podcast episodes with titles such as How Much Can I Afford? How Mortgages Work? How Down Payments Work? First-Time Homeowner Programs? How to Find a Real Estate Agent? Making an Offer? Legal and Documentation Matters? How Home Appraisals Work? How Escrow Works? And then an episode on dishonest dealings. Next slide. So just to give you a brief, broad breakdown of the buyer's roadmap, and this is going to kind of build off of Ku's earlier slides. But, you know, the first step is a home buyer. You're going to be looking at locating a real estate agent and a loan officer, it's important to do that early on. And I'll have other slides that cover that. But then the next part of that process would be that you're going to be applying for a loan after you obtain your pre-qualification or your pre-approval. Once you have that loan pre-approval, you can be looking at homes with your real estate agent, make an offer on the home that you like, and upon the seller accepting your offer, or maybe there's some negotiations there, you'll open escrow. And from that point on, you'll be in that escrow process. And during the escrow process, you'll have your due diligence period where you'll have your disclosures to review, have your home inspections conducted, and your lender will have the appraisal completed as well. When you get closer to the end of that process, you'll be signing your loan documents. And then after you sign your loan documents, the loan will fund and the recording will take place, at which time you'll close escrow and be issued that closing statement. Next slide. So where do you go to find an agent? Find an agent, well, not where you go to find an agent, but we want to encourage you to verify the license information of that person that you're going to be working with. So you can find that agent, go onto our website, verify their license status, want to make sure if they have any discipline, make sure they're active license, make sure it's not expired, make sure the information matches to the person that you're working with. And we say this because there's a lot of fraud out there where someone may perpetrate being a licensee. And so you don't want to be working with someone who is providing you a license ID number and claiming to be so-and-so, and then come to find out they're an unlicensed person who you might have given your down payment to or some earnest money deposit to, and now they absconded with your money. Now there's a lot of licensees out there, and there's a lot of great agents. You'll be good in finding that type of person, but we just want to give you these tips so that way you can better protect yourself. So again, just check out our website. You can type in their name, or if you have their license ID number, and you can verify that information. It's a good idea to also call their employing broker just to confirm the information that you have on that particular salesperson. That way, you're working with a person that is actually the licensee. Next slide, please. So some of the fraud alerts we wanted to go over is that, and these are just to keep you aware, that way you can ask those questions and be alert to these things. So be alert if you're ever asked to pay cash. You should never be asked to pay cash. Everything should be going through escrow in that process. So that would be a red flag. If you're ever asked to pay for something on the side or outside of escrow or after closing, those are also red flags. However, there's some things are going to be acceptable, such as if you have negotiated with a particular seller to purchase their personal property, such as their furniture, something to that effect, that might be outside of escrow. But if you're asked to pay something outside of escrow, say money towards the purchase of your property, that's going to be a huge red flag. So ask questions about that, maybe even contact the department and ask about that situation, or contact an attorney. If you're asked to pay a real estate agent directly or are asked to pay upfront fees, this is another red flag. Real estate salespeople can only be compensated by their employing broker. So you as a borrower or a buyer should never be paying a real estate agent directly, unless that person is a real estate broker, but still their commissions will come out of escrow and be reflected on the the closing statement. So if you're ever asked to pay directly, don't do it. Red flag. Also for upfront fees, we have prohibitions against upfront fees, and in limited cases where they are acceptable, a real estate agent must still have a no objection letter from our department before they can do that. Another red flag is if you are dealing with an unlicensed agent or an unlicensed brokerage company. So again, using that link or our website to verify their license status, make sure that they are actually in fact licensed and it's in active status, means that they can conduct acts that require license. So if they are on suspended status or restricted, they can still do business, but if it's expired or suspended, that's a no-go. Or if it's showing revoked, right? or if they're not showing up on our website at all, that's another red flag. You want to verify they're licensed. Um, this is going to be pertaining more to those who have a home, maybe, or maybe know somebody who owns a home, might be upside down with their mortgage. If they're struggling with that, and if they start working with a forensic loan audit or offered a forensic loan audit, that could be a red flag as well. A lot of times those types of companies are asking for monies up front, which again is against the law. And so you want to be alert to that type of issue, as well as those who claim to be attorney backed. So if you're, or someone you know is working with for a loan modification, and they're working with a business that claims to be attorney backed, that could be a red flag when they, especially if they're refusing to provide you the attorney's name or the state bar number. If you come across programs and companies that claim to represent federal or state agencies or programs, that's another red flag. And if you're given any sales pitch with logical holes, lack of details or assumptions, those are red flags as well. And if you're meeting with salespeople who fail to discuss possible risks along with possible rewards, remember, all investments do carry a risk. So there's no such thing as no risk. Red flags, you want to be alert to those things. If you're asked to lend personal funds to an investment plan secured only by a personal note, that means that is an unsecured investment. If you're going to be investing in property, you want to make sure it's secured by the property. So if you're asked to lend personal funds in that situation and it's only secured by a personal note, that means it's unsecured, and that's a big red flag. If you encounter lack of an actual business office or unwillingness to meet in an actual office or refusal to meet in person. Now, our law, our compliance states that a real estate agent must have an actual physical business office. However, there's a lot of virtual offices out there, and agents can become compliant with our laws and regulations if they have a virtual office. So the fact that they don't have any, they're going to meet you somewhere else, that's can be okay. So that's not a complete red flag there, but it would be if they're refusing to meet you in person, or they definitely don't have an actual business office. Those who refuse to meet in person, we find this in our complaints that we receive, where someone has found a rental, for example. Maybe it's a social media advertisement, and the person asks for a rental fee, the security deposit and the first month's rent, and to pay them. And then they go to the property, they find themselves on the driveway, and the house is not available for rent. The homeowner is living in it, or maybe it's a property for sale and it's not even for rent. So that fraudster is absconded with the money. So again, you want to make sure you are dealing with the people who are representing themselves to be licensed. They're willing to meet you in person. You have that conversation. You've verified that information. You've contacted their brokerage to ensure that you are working with a person that claims to be the licensee by confirming the cell number and what have you. Those are things you can do to help protect yourself in working with a licensee. Another red flags are not provided with required state and federal disclosures early in the transaction. So when you get back into that due diligence period after having an offer accepted, you're going to be given many disclosures, and those should occur earlier on because there's uh, you have a time period to review those documents and sign off on them. And agents don't want to provide that at the end because that the deal could fall apart if you decide you don't want the property. So they're going to be provided early on. So if you are provided them late, you ask questions. Why am I getting this late? Right. So those are just red flags to look out for as well. If you find yourself in a situation where you're asked to transfer title. Now, Koo touched on this too. That's a huge red flag. So if you know someone who is doing a loan modification or working with someone who's trying to claim that they can save their house from being foreclosed, and they're asking that homeowner to transfer title to them or someone else, guess what? You sign that deed, you don't own the property anymore. It's gone. So don't be transferring your title. There's other ways. If you or someone is struggling with their mortgage payment, the best thing you can do is contact their mortgage company themselves to work out a loan modification. Another red flag is if you're encouraged to make payments to someone other than your servicer. Again, you should only be making mortgage payments to your loan servicer. That's the person that's noted on your deed of trust who is servicing the loan on behalf of the beneficiary to the deed. So those are some fraud alerts. These are right off of one of our advisories and our consumer alerts on our website. And I just wanted to touch those with you. Next slide, please. So what do we do in Department of Real Estate Enforcement section? I work in enforcement. We investigate cases. That's what we do. Our primary responsibility is to enforce the Real Estate Law and Subdivided Lands Act. We do this through conducting investigations of complaints we've received. And we do this in conducting investigations against licensees, unlicensed entities, and real estate applicants. Next slide. So the disciplinary actions that we take against folks is we'll file a statement of issues against real estate applicants who have a substantially related conviction to the qualifications, functions, or duties of real estate agent. We'll file an accusation against a real estate licensee for violating a specific real estate law or regulation. And we file desist and refrain orders against unlicensed folks who are conducting acts that do require a license. We also have the authority to issue bar orders, which can bar someone from the real estate industry for up to 3 years. And we also have the authority for issuing citations and fines, which we use for minor violations of real estate law. And we also can do that against an unlicensed person. And those fines can be pretty hefty. They can go up to $2,500 per act. So it's pretty substantial. Next slide. So the type of violations that we most commonly see, trust funds are right at the top. We see violations in the record keeping and shortages. This mostly pertains to property management brokerages, but also some broker controlled escrows. So an escrow company is either going to be licensed by DFPI or they're going to be licensed by us through not so much like they have an individual, but a real estate broker can conduct an escrow provided they represent one side of the party to the transaction. So that's one of the exemptions. But that's where some of these trust funds can occur. We also see a failure of brokers to supervise the salespeople employed to them or their company. And we also see violations of unlicensed activities, very common. And then we also have making substantial misrepresentations in transactions. And then, like I mentioned before, with real estate applicants, even licensees, if they receive a conviction, a criminal conviction, that can lead to a disciplinary action as well. Those are our most common violations that we see in our department statewide. Next slide, please. So to show some statistics of what we've been able to do, this is as of the fiscal year March 31st, 2024, these stats come from. We've received complaints averaging 437 per month. And of those, 281 were referred to us in enforcement for investigations. And out of those, we've referred 93 per month to our legal division for disciplinary action. And that resulted with 217 licenses revoked or revoked with a restricted license. We've also had 118 licenses suspended and then 34 surrendered. Next slide, please. So what do you do if you find yourself in a situation where you have these red flags or you know something went wrong with your transaction, and how do you file a complaint? Well, you can do so by going to our website. Again, that's dre.ca.gov, and you can submit an online complaint form, or you can download the complaint form from our website and mail it in to us. If you don't have access to a computer, which I'm assuming everyone here does based on the our presentation here virtual, but you can also call us at 877-373-4542, and we'll be glad to mail you a form so that you can fill it out and mail it in to us. Next slide. All right, that completes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to Ku. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. A lot of fantastic, really important information there. I do see some hands up in the pool here. If you have any questions, please submit it into Q&A. We will answer those questions at the very end. I will not be able to, answer if your hands are raised. So please submit the question, your Q&A, into the Q&A feature. With that, I want to say give a big welcome to Eric Johnson, who is with the marketing outreach of the California Housing Finance Agency. Eric, welcome. Please take it away.
Hi, Ku. Thanks everyone for being here today. Thank you, Jason, for all that information. I actually had to register a complaint about a realtor several years ago and got resolved, got a nice little refund of my realtor money back, and that person got suspended. So the process works, which is always nice. The California Housing Finance Agency has been around since 1975, first Jerry Brown administration. And our proposition is we need to help first-time homebuyers. As Ku started out today with, housing in California is very expensive. And there are a lot of people who have steady jobs, who have good credit, good source of income, but haven't really been able to save up for that down payment. And the down payment can be very challenging to get, which is why we exist. Next slide. So it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of words on my slides. All our information is on our website. And I think the one takeaway from today, from my presentation, is the importance of a good team. Both Ku and Jason talked about the importance of having a good real estate agent and a good loan officer or broker on your side. Those are the people who know the transactions, who know all the scary vocabulary words, and can really get you through. So make sure you find people that you trust for this. For our loans, we help out people with what's called a silent second loan. It's a second loan that you take out when you get your first mortgage. That is money you don't have to make payments on. So basically what it does is it minimizes or makes your monthly payment that you make to your mortgage servicer, makes it less every month. For our loans, the most important thing is you need to be a first-time home buyer. That means you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. It does not mean you've never owned a home. So if you owned a home and then had to sell the home, or you're forced out of the home, and it's been more than 3 years, then for our purposes, you're a first-time home buyer once again, and you can use our programs again, which is pretty cool. You also have to occupy the program. We're not running the program to help investors or people who rent out their property. This is for people who want to occupy their property and make that jump from renting to owning their first home. We also think it's really important that not only you get in the home, but you stay in the home, which is why everybody who uses our programs has to have mandatory online home buyer education counseling. It's about a 6 to 8 hour online program. And I saw Lisa's question about home buying counseling. We also strongly advocate for attending a full-on home buying counselor session. There are dozens of HUD-approved home buyer counselors in California. We run a program also that you can find on our website that gets you free home buying counseling. And these are folks who will sit down with you, go through the details of your income, your expenses, help you figure out where you can be looking for a home, what programs might be best for you. It might be that a CalHFA loan isn't the best for you. There might be other local programs, other things that you can do. So I highly recommend talking to a HUD-approved home buying counselor. They can also help you out with if you have rental issues, if you're facing eviction, other financial counseling sort of things, similar to what DFPI offers. But I can't overestimate the importance of a homeownership counselor. You can find a list of those on our website. So all these things, they're all home buying counseling it can be in person, it can be virtual. So lots of ways to make sure it happens. Next slide. As you can see, we have several varieties of programs. There are conventional loans and there's government loans. They have different requirements, different minimum credit scores. Our minimum credit score is 660. Other programs have minimums of 680. So what they have, there's also programs specifically for veterans. If you're a veteran, you can get a VA loan. And also if you're looking to own a property that has more of an agricultural use, we can use a USDA loan, which is a slightly different process. But they all have their own distinct advantages, pros and cons, in terms of how much you need to contribute, in terms of how much the down payment assistance is available for. So again, make sure you hook up with a loan officer. We have a list of preferred loan officers on our CalHFA website, people who have worked with first-time homebuyers for a long time, and that's their bread and butter. They know how to work with people for 6, 9, 12, even 18 months, starting from when you first contact them, when you finally are getting the keys to your first home. They've got patience. They know it can take a long time. So we really encourage you to work with one of those folks. Next slide. Here's a little more information about what the actual loans are. We have the Cal Plus with ZIP program. ZIP is the zero interest program. It's another second loan that you can use specifically for your closing costs. Who talked a lot about closing costs and how there's all these little fees that add up $500 here, $750 there. And all of a sudden you're looking at a few grand that maybe you weren't thinking about. This ZIP program can help you out in paying those down payment costs in addition to your down payment. Next slide. So the My Home Assistance Loan is kind of our flagship program. It can go up to 3% or 3.5% of your loan. So say you're buying a home for, say, $500,000. What this program can do, it can give you a loan of up to 3% of that, which would be $15,000. So instead of paying your first mortgage payment on $500,000, you're only paying it on $485,000, which can be a significant amount for some people and make that difference between renting and making that transition to homeownership. Next slide. That's basically it. It's a really great program. We really encourage you to go to our website and check it out. Call one of our loan officers and definitely see if you can get into one of those homeownership counseling programs. They can be really, really helpful to clarify what's important for you. Koo, back to you.
Thank you, Eric. One of my best friends bought their house through a CalHFA loan. He never thought he would be able to do it, but again, just call they have a number on their website. Just call them. They'll find you again, approved mortgage professional who can walk you through the process, look at your financials and figure out what you need to do to get that place. It's fantastic. And so I'm a huge advocate of it. It's a great program. So now we're here at the Q&A. I do want to leave enough time because we have a lot of great questions here. Let's just go ahead from start to finish. So on average, what is the minimum income needed to purchase a home in California? So this is kind of I'm not going to be able to answer this question. It's a good question, but it depends on the type of home. It depends on the location. There is kind of a median home price. But I think it's very misleading. Again, depends on where the house is, what amenities it has, how big the house is. There's a lot of things that can change it. But if you could actually just Google median home price in California, and it's pretty high up there. It doesn't mean that it's not affordable. It just means that you have to be very careful, very intentional about saving, budgeting, and getting ready to purchase it. So great question. Thank you very much. When should someone consult with a housing counselor? And oh yes, Eric answered this question. Just to reiterate, you can consult whenever you want. I think it's very important in the home buying process for you to look into it because it prepares you, right? It'll get you prepared for it. So thank you, Lisa, for that question. How much should I budget for a mortgage? So I'm assuming this question is meaning how much should I in my monthly budget have dedicated for a mortgage. And it really depends. Again, this is not financial advice or legal advice of any kind, but the general rule of thumb is no more than 25 to 30% of your monthly income, right? And I would say your net income, but some people say gross income. So gross is everything put together, net is after taxes. General rule of thumb is 25% or 30%. And again, this is not financial advice. I think everybody's situation is different, right? It depends on how regularly you get paid, what's your and how much savings you have, right? So make sure that you're going to be able to cover your mortgage. And by the way, don't stretch it, right? Don't get a mortgage that's 50% of your monthly income because that's going to really crunch your other things that you need to pay for, things like utilities, food, insurance. So great question. Thank you for asking. How do I report a complaint about a realtor that I previously worked with? Jason, this might be a question for you.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned in the presentation, the way you would file a complaint is you can go onto our website. We have links to file an online complaint. But we also have our complaint form in the form section, and you can download that complaint form, fill it out, and mail it in as well. always with the complaint, we need or would like to have those documents that you have to substantiate your complaint along with the complaint. And so if you do it online, you have a way to upload those links, to those documents as well. But that's how you would file it. We need to have that complaint form to review it, and if it falls within our jurisdiction, we could launch an investigation into that issue. But keep in mind, as the Department of Real Estate, we investigate complaints to discipline a licensee. We do not have the powers of court. We cannot weigh into civil matters or contractual issues or award monetary damages. So it's strictly, if we are able to pursue it in our disciplinary action, the department becomes the complainant in that case, an administrative hearing, to pursue that disciplinary action against the licensee. But yeah, please fill out a complaint form and mail it into us. We appreciate that.
Yeah, great point there, Jason. Very important. Also with us, if you're experiencing issues with your mortgage servicer, mortgage lender, mortgage broker, you can submit a complaint to us and we will review it as well. So important to submit a complaint, whether it's with a real estate agent or mortgage lender professional, that kind of thing, because if you're experiencing this issue, you may not be the only one, right? Other clients that they have may be experiencing this issue too. So if you submit a complaint, and others are submitting complaints, we will definitely review it all and take action, review it and take action that way. So thanks. This is a great question. Next one, what about the recent changes in payments for buyers versus seller agents? And I heard this was part of a settlement. Jason, do you want to comment about this?
Sure. I have, I'm going to assume we're talking about the buyer broker representation agreement and the commissions. The governor recently signed the Assembly Bill 2992. It goes into effect January 1st, 2025. And essentially it's changing the way commissions are paid to the buyer's broker. Traditionally, a listing agent would take a listing for a residential property for like 6%, and then they would be splitting that commission with a buyer's broker who was representing a buyer, and that's how the buyer's agent was compensated. With the settlements that have come out, and I haven't read all the settlements, I'm not privy to all that information, but my understanding is that with the buyer's broker representation agreement is shifting towards the buyer to pay for their own agent's commission. And so how that's going to be done is going to be through that buyer's broker representation agreement. I do understand that there's going to be ways to ask for the seller to pay a portion or all of that commission, just as you would for any other type of closing costs, but that's the extent to my knowledge on it. But that's a law that recently was signed. In fact, I think it was signed this week by the governor, and that's Assembly Bill 2992, and it goes into effect January 1st, 2025. So hopefully that answers that to the satisfaction of the inquiry.
Yep, both a great question, and Jason, thank you for a very thorough answer. Very good. Next question here. Do I need to use a real estate agent if I am buying a house being sold directly by its owner? Question for you, Jason, but I do want to add a comment here. I don't think you need to, but again, if it were me, I would definitely use a real estate agent. Go ahead, Jason.
That's exactly correct. You don't need to. No one is required to use a real estate agent. That's what's called principal activity. A homeowner can sell their property without an agent, and a buyer can buy a property without an agent. Obviously, with the complexity of a real estate sales transaction and all the laws that are involved, it does benefit clients to use a real estate agent for listing and selling. There's a lot of disclosures, and the laws are changing and they're being added. When a real estate agent, when we're investigating a complaint and we're taking disciplinary action, we're looking at a body of law that's contained in the Business and Professions Code. So those are the sections that we can discipline on. But there's a whole other civil code that has a ton of real estate laws in it, and we don't have jurisdiction over those. Those are civil laws and such that you have. And so there's just a lot involved. And I think it is, we definitely encourage you to use a professional. Again, it was mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation that it's a huge investment to buy a property. Not everybody spends this kind of money on anything else in their lifetime. So certainly, you're spending whatever the median average is. LA is really expensive. I think we're probably looking at 800,000 or more. But to 500,000 or more, that's you're buying a home, and so there's a lot involved with that. And so it does benefit you to use a real estate agent just for the liability alone in the civil cases. But no, you are not required by any means to use a real estate agent. If you're certainly comfortable with doing that, and the homeowner is comfortable, without an agent, hey, you guys can do that transaction. You don't need a real estate agent.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And I will say, if you ever find and have a great real estate agent on your side, it is definitely night and day. They will fight tooth and nail for you. So I always recommend one. It's great. So thank you, Jason. Next question might be for you too as well. Is there any way I can review the reputation of a real estate agent?
Yeah, this would be for us, but there is not a way to review the reputation of real estate agent on our website, but you could certainly do like a Google search of the real estate agent's name, maybe find a Yelp review or something to that effect. There's going to be a lot of commentary in those platforms, but on our website through our agency, we do not have that type of information. Our website, you can see their license status, and you can see if any disciplinary action has been taken against the licensee. And that could range from something, minor to something that's real serious. So, it'd be something that you'd have to be comfortable with if there was a disciplinary action taken against them. But as far as reputation is going to be based on what's out there in the world. And so it's better to probably do, a search for commentary on that, like Yelp or whatever those other social media platforms are that show that information. And also maybe check with the Better Business Bureau for your area, because if there's agents that are, or companies that are doing, shady business, I guess would be a way to say it. There might be some information there that you might want to see, that negative information. That way you can choose the best person for yourself. But like I mentioned, we have 435,000 licensees throughout the state. And I know we talk about consumer protection and some red flags, but that's not prevalent throughout all those agents. Like when I sold real estate, for a large part of it, you're dealing with great agents. There's a lot of great information out there, a lot of great people. But working in the department, we're looking at complaints, and so we're kind of zeroing in on that fraction that actually does get disciplined by violating real estate laws. But sorry, hopefully that answers that question.
Yep, really great answer, and also really great question here. I know we're coming up on the hours, but we're going to continue to go because I want to answer all these questions. If you have to leave, I know it's only supposed to be a 1 hour webinar, but if you have to bounce, that's okay. We are recording this webinar and we will publish it to our YouTube channel. Everyone who registered for the webinar will get a link to the webinar recording as well as the slides. And you will also get a handout with all this information on it. I know I went really quickly through my slides. So yeah, thank you for attending. If you have to leave, we're going to continue on. Next question. Oh, yes. Is there information about a handout? Yes. I have a one sheet, again, recapping a lot of information, having some contact information from us on it. So it will be included in the follow-up email. Next question is about, will this webinar be recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. We will publish to our YouTube channel. Next question, where can we find other DPA programs or list of DPAs? I think this might be for Eric.
I really like downpaymentresource.com. I'm putting that in the chat there. They've got a really comprehensive, they have more than 2,000 down payment programs all across the country. Also really recommend you contact your local housing office, for instance, Sacramento. The Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, SHRA, has a list of down payment programs. So check locally and check nationally. It's amazing how much, if you can get $4,000 here and $7,500 there, all of a sudden it can kind of start adding up. So be diligent. And once again, I keep beating this drum, but find yourself a good loan officer or broker. They're going to know what programs are going to be best for you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, really great point there. And I'll add on, yes, definitely do your research when you're looking to buy a house. There are tons of opportunities, whether it be from your city or county, even, of course, the state, we have programs, and nationally, there are lots of different programs. So do your research, right? Use the time that you have. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the question. Is being added to the title grant deed of a residence considered to already be a first-time home buyer?
Unfortunately, yes, that would be you own a home, you have an ownership interest in a home. So yes, that would be that would disqualify you from using one of our first-time home buyer programs.
Okay, thank you. Great question. Next one, I just want to mention that the consumers can also check the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for complaints, and the NMLS, Consumer Access to check lender MLL licenses. Yes. So a lot of different places where you can reference, especially before you start doing business. Again, this is like Jason was saying, this is a big investment. You definitely want to double check all of the references and licenses for any complaints on your mortgage lender, real estate professionals, all of those. Okay, this one is for Jason. As most buyers and sellers are unaware of depositing funds, either with escrow or with any brokers, does the DRE have any information about broker-run escrow companies and the lack of bonding / fidelity funds that protect their funds in the event funds are mishandled? So this is this is kind of a very nuanced question. Jason, you can answer it here, or you can take it offline and answer this person directly. I'll let you choose.
I know it's fine. We can answer it here. Crystal, there is, information on our website for the consumer alerts and things of that nature that could provide that information concerning broker controlled escrows and some of those concerns that you have regarding with their lack of bonding and fidelity bonds and such as that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. And by the way, I will be including the contact info during my follow-up email. So if you have any other questions, you could always email us. Before we move on, I'm going to just move on to the next slide really quickly and throw some reminders out there. Next month, we are having a webinar, our financial education webinar on healing financial stress and trauma. That's on November 6th at noon. Please register for that webinar. And our December financial education webinar is on scams and frauds that target young adults. That'll be on December 4th, not at 7 p.m. I'm sorry about that. It should be 12 p.m. noon. So you can register for that webinar. And of course, you can subscribe to our newsletter. We have a YouTube channel. Please visit that. And if you're interested in providing us any financial topics that you want us to cover, there's a link there where you can go and let us know. So there's a couple more questions. I'm going to just round it out very quickly. What questions should someone ask to find a good realtor? Jason, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. What questions to ask a good realtor to find a good realtor? I mean, interview 3 or 4, interview several and see which one best fits what you're looking for, in accomplishing what you need. Start with, your network, your family, your friends, that sort of thing. See what's, that's a good place to start. As far as what other good question to ask them, it really depends on the person. You want to find out, what their knowledge is in the area, what you're looking for, that kind of thing. You just got to be asking a lot of questions that pertain to what your interests are, as far as what kind of home you're looking for, what area you're looking in. And, you can go to a reputable company to start off with and then start your conversation there.
Yep, great answer, Jason. And I'm a huge proponent of shopping around, right? Meet with the agents, figure out what their process is, and ask questions that are personable to you, right? So yeah, great answer. So how can we encourage cities to slow down job creation to match rate of home growth? That is a good question. I don't think we'll be able to answer it there because I don't want to say, it sounds like it's a policy issue, but it's also economic growth issue. It's a great question though, and I don't know if we'll be able to answer it here. The next question though, and in fact, Jay, thank you for the question. If you want to, I'm going to take this question offline. Please feel free to contact me directly. I'd love to have a conversation about that. Okay, very last question before we go. Will the DRE require proper fidelity bonding for broker-run escrows?
That's a question I cannot answer.
Thank you. Good question. And happy to take that offline as well. Okay, so I know we're past the hour. I want to say thank you again for coming and joining us for this webinar. I know many of you who joined the webinar are in that home buying process or just starting on your journey. And I do want to just give you some encouragement again. We're here to help you in any way we can. We're cheering for you. We want you to be successful in your home buying process, in your home buying journey. So I want to say thank you, Jason. Thank you, Eric, for jumping online, doing this webinar, presenting information. We're rooting for you. We want you to win. And thank you for, again, joining the webinar. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.
Thank you. Take care.